Well, good morning. The hearing will come to order, and it's a pleasure to welcome everyone to the Subcommittee on Labor, Health, and Human Services and Education for Members' Day. And we're looking forward to taking testimony from members of Congress. And this is an opportunity, of course, for any member of Congress to come before our subcommittee and to draw attention to issues that are important to them, important to their districts, and of course, issues that are important to our entire nation. I look forward to hearing from my colleagues that are here today and about the challenges they see and how this subcommittee can help them address those issues that they see as vitally important. Before we begin, let me turn to the ranking member, Ms. DeLauro, for any comments that she would like to make.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and again to my colleagues, my apologies for being late, but it is a trek from Canton to Rayburn. It doesn't seem that long, but in any case. But I, too, want to welcome you to the Labor HHS Education Subcommittee, which is an unbelievable committee that it really does level the playing field for low-income children looking to get a good education. They equip our nation to deal with public health emergencies. The subcommittee funds life-saving biomedical research and helps Americans get the skills they need to be able to find a job, and the list does go on. So these programs directly impact the lives of Americans, as you all know. So I just want to welcome all of you here, and even as we hear from our colleagues about their top priorities for fiscal year 2026, I wish we had fiscal year 2025 finished up. But I would also ask you, implore you really, to speak with your colleagues and help us to advocate for these programs in the unfinished fiscal year 2025 bills as well. Thank you. I yield back.
I'd like to now recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Representative Glenn Thompson. You have the floor.
Well, Chairman Adderholt, Ranking Member DeLauro, members of the subcommittee, thank you for providing the opportunity to share my priorities for fiscal year 2026. As co-chair of the bipartisan House Career and Technical Education Caucus, I strongly support CTE programs that provide learners of all ages with career-ready skills. As a school recently presented to me, these are the skills that help pay the bills. From agriculture and artificial intelligence to marketing and manufacturing, CTE programs work to develop America's most valuable resource, its people. CTE is taught in a range of settings, including high schools, area technical centers, and technical and two-year community colleges. In total, a record number of more than 12 million high school and college students are enrolled in CTE programs nationwide today. Congress recognized the importance of CTE when we passed the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act in 2018, which was subsequently signed into law by President Trump. This effort, the first major federal overhaul of CTE programs since 2006, modernized investments in CTE, helped connect educators with industry stakeholders, and continue Congress's commitment to investing in these successful programs. CTE has established itself as a path that many high-achieving students choose in pursuit of industry certification and hands-on skills that they can use right out of high school in skills-based education programs, or quite frankly, in college, maybe in Congress too. In fact, the four-year graduation rate for high school students in career and technical education program is 96%, far higher than the national average. While I'm grateful that Perkins state grants were funded at $1.44 billion in fiscal year 2024, those levels, adjusted for inflation, are roughly half of the amount of the federal investment made in CTE in 1980, despite the record number of CTE students that currently rely on this funding. As CTE programs evolve to meet the needs of employers in high-wage, high-skill, or in-demand career fields, we must provide strong federal support for these successful programs. Therefore, I respectfully urge the subcommittee to strongly support the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act's state grant program in fiscal year 2026. I'd also like to discuss the importance of the Community Services Block Grant Program. Virtually every program in every county in the United States has a community action agency, a local organization charged by the federal government with the sweeping mission of fighting poverty. About 1,000 such agencies exist nationwide to help ensure a safety net for low-income individuals and families. Even more importantly, they create opportunities for people to move from poverty to independence. These agencies serve millions of low-income Americans each year, helping them gain useful skills, access new opportunities, and achieve financial independence. The Community Services Block Grant is the only federal program with the explicit and overarching goal of reducing poverty, regardless of its cause. CSBG pursues this goal by providing critical funding to the nationwide network of local CAAs and supporting their locally driven comprehensive approach to fighting poverty. As a uniquely flexible source of funds, CSBG allows CAAs to address their community needs through building partnerships and investing in the creation of opportunities especially suited to local conditions and the unique circumstances of low-income citizens. Moreover, CSBG funds assist CAAs in attracting non-federal resources. For every $1 of Community Services Block Grant funding, these community action agencies are able to leverage nearly $5 from state, local, and private sources. In 2020, Congress recognized the need to increase CSBG eligibility criteria from 100% to 200% of federal poverty line, and has continued this policy in all subsequent appropriation laws. This increased flexibility has enabled CAAs to stabilize fragile families, mitigate the impact of arbitrary benefit cliffs, and help working households in crisis avoid a permanent fall into poverty. As I continue to work with my colleagues on the Education Workforce Committee towards reauthorization and improvements within the program, I respectfully request you maintain language in this subcommittee's bill to continue eligibility at 200% of the federal poverty level and provide the highest amount possible for CSBG in fiscal year 2026. In my written testimony that's already been submitted, I've also detailed support for various programs within the subcommittee's jurisdiction that bolster and improve rural health care, and I'd respectfully request your consideration of those priorities that are currently desperately needed in our rural communities. Thank you again, Chairman Adderholt, Ranking Member DeLauro, and members of the subcommittee for allowing me to express my priorities for FY 2026. And I appreciate your consideration and look forward to working together on these and other issues.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and we'll include anything you want to add into the record, and glad to have you here. Next, we will recognize.
Can I just make one
Yeah.
comment? The programs you talk about are critical. The career and technical education, and we did a hearing early on where it mentioned the focus was about the great outcomes with the technical education and what it does. I would just want you to be mindful of this. You know, and I know, there really is this move to attack education, dismantle the Department of Education. One can view things that are wrong and address them and so forth, but I think the Department of Education really has to be central to our ability to provide the kinds of resources that you don't so deeply care about with CTE. And again, just be mindful as the debate goes on and where we are in terms of the overall appropriations process and making sure that this is a program that does not fall by the wayside or get underfunded for some reasons. The Community Service Block Grant is, everyone knows about its benefits as well. And so we have yet to see whether or not that will be a target of any cuts.
Yeah, both programs, Ranking Member, I believe are forces for good. They, quite frankly, career and technical education, I shared with you, the graduation rate of students enrolled in career and technical education is 96%, far above the general high school completion rate for the remainder of the students. It is one of the things I did mention in my testimony, and I don't think it's in the written testimony either, is today, as a result of that 2018 Modernizing Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century law, I was really proud to stand in the Oval Office when it was signed into, that was my legislation signed into law. We now, where we had underutilized programs in the past, programs that ended because they didn't have enough students, universally across the board today, we have waiting lists, and that's something I would certainly respectfully request the subcommittee take into consideration as well. There are students that are looking for those they're great opportunities, and not just youth. I mean, a lot of our career and technical education programs run dual track, so appreciate it.
Works. It works. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. All right. Next, we have Congressman Seth Magaziner from the great state of Rhode Island. Welcome. And you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair Adderhall, Ranking Member DeLauro, and members of the committee, for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'm here to advocate for two programs that are absolutely essential in building a competitive workforce and providing opportunity to the next generation of talented young Americans. Federal Pell to higher education for millions of low and middle income students. No young person who has the grades, the work ethic, and the ambition to go to college should be denied that opportunity just because their parents don't make a lot of money. And if we are going to compete with China and the rest of the world in the global economy, we need a workforce with 21st century skills. Approximately 6 million students receive Pell Grants in the 2023 to 24 school year, and a majority of those grants went to students whose families make less than $20,000 a year. However, the value of the Pell Grant is not keeping up with the rising cost of tuition and cost of living. Today, Pell Grants cover less than 1/3 of the average cost of attendance at a public four-year university. They used to cover 80%. In fact, the maximum Pell Grant amount has only been increased by about $1,600 over the last decade. Last year, I led 126 of our colleagues in calling for the Pell Grant to be doubled and indexed to inflation, and I plan to do so again this year. Restoring the Pell Grant's purchasing power will not only make college more affordable, but also improve outcomes by providing grant recipients more opportunity to focus on school by covering their basic needs. We must increase funding for the Pell Grant so that the next generation of Americans has access to the education they deserve. I also urge this committee to increase funding for career and technical education, innovation, and modernization grants. As we have heard, there is more than one path to success in this country, and we need to support a range of different education and job training opportunities, including for those kids who are eager to enter the job market or who may not want to attend four-year college. Career and technical education can prepare young people for good-paying jobs in a range of growing fields like healthcare, manufacturing, and the skilled trades. And students want these programs. In Rhode Island, my state, career and technical education programs have been so successful that the demand is larger than the number of spots available. More than half of Rhode Island public high school students are participating. More than half of high school students in my state are in CTE programs. Innovation and modernization grants fund research and pilot programs to ensure that career and technical education programs are keeping up with labor market needs. They also identify, support, and evaluate evidence-based strategies to improve the effectiveness of career and technical education. The needs of employers are constantly changing, and we need to ensure that career and technical education programs are adapting to meet those needs so that students know there is a good job waiting for them when they finish their program. Last year, I led 31 of our colleagues in sending this committee a letter in support of $64 million for CTE innovation and modernization grants, and I look forward to doing the same again this year. I'm glad that career and technical education has historically had robust bipartisan support in the House, and I'm optimistic that we can continue to work together on this important bipartisan issue. Finally, we must acknowledge that last week, the House passed a budget plan that directs the Education and Workforce Committee to make cuts of at least $330 billion in order to pay for tax cuts that will largely benefit the rich. And President Trump has repeatedly stated his intention to eliminate the Department of Education. We cannot sell out America's students and employers by gutting education and job training. I ask my colleagues to take education off the chopping block and instead invest in providing opportunities to the next generation, including through expanding Pell Grants and career and technical education. I thank you for your consideration, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Magaziner. Ranking Member?
I was just to say thank you very, very much. We should be increasing the amount of Pell Grants. I just to say about Claiborne Pell, who I did get to know. Claiborne Pell was a senator to the manor born. He was from a very affluent family, but he recognized that there was a need to be able to provide an educational opportunity to working class families, middle class families, lower income families. Thereby, we have the Pell Grant. We should continue it. We should increase it. We make the opportunity for kids to be able to reach their dreams and their aspirations. You talked about the career and technical, which we talked about earlier, and I think it's worthwhile noting that education needs to come off of the chopping block. Education is the great equalizer, as Horace Mann said, and we need to provide resources to make sure that people have the educational opportunities for their success. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ranking Member. I'd like to thank all the students who took an interest in your federal government today, and thanks for what you're doing to enter the workforce. I know a little place in just south of Dallas that's got a high quality of living and a low cost of living that you're welcome to come to, and a lot of manufacturing jobs in any number of places that, any number of industries that you might seek to work. So come on down to Ellis County and Midlothian and Dallas. We'd be happy to have you all down there. But thank you for expressing interest. Mr. Magaziner, thank you for coming today. Seeing no other testimony today, hearing is adjourned.